You have caused confusion and delay.
I'm the Apple Viper Railfans. This week we are looking at probably the best Thomas set ever. Let's get into it. Starting off with Thomas, the rolling stock, and the stuff he can deliver. It's not too much. It's pretty simple. So we have this barrel car, which you can take any of these 4 barrels, one being bananas, mail, fish, and apples. You can put any barrel in there. It rests kind of nicely, although at an angle. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And there is a thing on the bottom that, when moved, launches that. So, if we reset it without knocking it over, and we take it across here, you can see. Okay, wrong way. Still the wrong way. But you can see, I said you can see, it launches the barrel up and on top of our little station that we have here, where there is a bell. For the car itself, it's not too complicated. It's pretty simple. And it has the geared wheels. I'm not sure why it does. I think that's a little pointless. It makes it jitter when going around sharp curves. But yeah, and the barrels are very simplistic and completely hollow. So yeah. As for Thomas himself, it's the exact same one that you can find from the 3 packs with the steam effect, but he has a different face. And he's looking forward instead of in a random direction, which I like that a lot better. And his back buffers are not painted, sadly. So yeah. And that's kind of it. So, Thomas himself and all these things are pretty lackluster, but everything else is very intriguing. Starting off at the station, it resembles Knapford, I've heard, or Vickerstown. So, yeah, and I do think it does resemble that. At the top, we have this little Thomas flag here with stickers on it, and a bell, which does make noise. Every time a barrel is launched up at the bell, it will make a ding, signifying that a delivery has been made. We have these little flaps here that allow the barrels to roll down the sides into these little containers. It can only fit 1 barrel at a time, though, and the barrels don't always roll down either. But yeah, and we have these little stickers here on the track too. So yeah, inside we have some buffers with more stickers, and those can be a little hard to put on if you put them on after you've assembled this, like I did, because I'm an idiot. So yeah, we have these 2 sidings, like I previously mentioned, and this one straightaway that leads to a turntable. Turntable isn't that long, only being able to fit 1 Thomas and a car, and it is kind of like a dome shape, so he's angled down, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But yeah, turntable is pretty cool, makes it click every time you get to a new spot, and you can have him move, pull the lever, and he is off. So yeah, we also have this here with an accurate switch, which this looks really cool. And this will stop Thomas from moving, as I will demonstrate. I said, as I will demonstrate. So, yeah. It's pretty simple. We have 2 of those. That is also one there, that green thing. So, yeah. And leading off of the turntable, going this way across a green switch, which looks very nice, and across this, we get to this tunnel, which is made out of a fabric and slots in just like this. Pretty easy. On the inside, I don't know how I feel about that, because there aren't any edges, and engines are very prone to derailing in there, but it serves its purpose, basically. Yeah. Now, going over here, we have another side of the station, because it is very symmetrical. Then we have this ramp up onto a bridge, around a curve, to here, where we have another one of these stop things. And then we go under the bridge, and you have a choice to either go onto this bright red switch or through the station. And it's a pretty simple loop. An interesting thing is that usually motorized track, the curves specifically, require 4 to make a full 180-degree turn. But there is only 3 here, so these are a little sharper, which is pretty unique to this set. And they also have a different mold, because these railroad ties, different shapes and sizes, and it looks kind of different compared to the normal straights. Taking a closer look at the bridge, you can see it's very well designed, and it looks really, really cool. This is very cool. It's very strong too, so you can send any train over it without worrying about flexing or anything. Taking a look at the switches, you will notice that they also have that sharper radius curve on one end. And they have this little bump thing here that helps keep engines on the rails, which is a cool little feature, which I'm glad they added that, because engines really like derailing on switches, especially these 80th anniversary engines. So, yeah. Going over to the red switch, this one is a little pointless. Over here, we can see, looking at the switch, there is no actual switch thing. There are no moving parts in it. We just have a ramp here and a curve here. That's because there's a bump between the curve and the straightaway part. So when an engine comes this way onto the switch, they will always go down the ramp and never up the curve, as there is a drop-off. Why it's like this, I don't know. I think it's a little pointless, because what are you ever going to use this little ramp for? There's no reason to have that. We also have this arrow, but only one of these is included, despite there being 2 of these pointless switches, which is a little weird. Here we can see more of those ledges on the curve here, and it looks like there should be something that goes here, but nothing is included with the set. So, yeah. So, on the box, there are 2 ways to design your track. There are 2 layouts, neither of which include one of these red switches. And this is one of them, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. So, things I do like about this is how colorful it is. And I really like that bridge. That bridge is the coolest part about this, along with the turntable. Because using this turntable, you can make your own Tidmouth sheds if you want, if you pick up this set, which I think is very cool. Things I don't like is the fact that there are stickers, specifically here, and on the buffers. Stickers are known to peel off and get ruined over time, which isn't that cool, you know? Like, I don't really like stickers for that reason, but they do add to the design of the layout, but I don't know why they couldn't just print that on. So yeah, and the felt tunnel, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it is very well made. You can tell it's high quality. So, yeah. It's very easy to put in, and it looks very cool. On to everybody's favorite, the running session. Hooray! So, we will turn Thomas on. And let's send him this way. And you do have to hold this switch, because it does immediately go back up. So, yeah. You can see he's made a delivery. The nice sounding bell. Yeah, the turntable lining is one thing you have to worry about, but it's not too problematic. You can see he's made a derail. And there's that in action. So, send him back down the middle. Now, if you spin the turntable too fast, sometimes he can release when it makes that clicking sound. Yeah. And these sightings have these little stoppers to stop the engines when they go on them. So yeah. But one thing I did notice about them is that when the barrel car is loaded and you pull it across, it will cause it to launch inside the building, which can be a little bit annoying because then you have to reach your hand in, but every set has its flaws. So, yeah. The same thing can happen on these if you push the car along. Same thing happens, then you have a loose barrel. However, the only way that will ever happen is if you're actively trying to do that. So, yeah. And that will conclude our running session. So, yeah. Going back to the turntable and sightings, Flying Scotsman cannot fit on this turntable, as demonstrated here. So, yeah, if you try to turn it, his tender will derail. And he also barely fits in the sightings, because if we just back him up, you can see how close he comes to hitting the turntable. When you put another engine on it, they can collide and derail, just like that. So, it's not compatible with all engines, but the Flying Scotsman is probably one of the engines you won't be putting in there. I mean, he just kind of doesn't fit in there, you know? I mean, this is one of the most famous engines in the world. You know, you run him around the track instead of putting him in a siding. But he isn't quite compatible with this set. That's one problem I've noticed with all sets. They're only designed to be compatible with the included engines and not other engines from the range. So, yeah. But it's not too big of a trouble, as you can just kind of uncouple that last tender, and now he fits. Voila, problem solved. So, this set, in conclusion, is actually a pretty cool set. You get a lot for what you pay. It's only around $50, I believe, and you get a lot out of it for that. You get a very accurate looking Thomas. You get a special kind of car that can launch barrels. You got a whole bunch of track. You got a bridge. You got a turntable. And, yeah. So, pretty cool set. If you see this in your Walmart, I would recommend picking it up. It has its flaws, but it's probably the best set I've ever bought. And that is going to conclude this week's video. I've been the Apple Viper Railfans, and I will see you next Santa Fe Saturday.